These days, portable gaming is everywhere, but not in the same form that it used to be. Everyone used to have a Game Boy or a Game Boy SP, a Game Boy Advance, or even a 3DS or a DS, but now everyone's playing on one of these, a mobile phone. And to be honest, mobile games are making a ton of money. Nintendo especially is doing quite well with apps like Fire Emblem Heroes and to a certain extent Mario Run. Now myself, I have also been playing a lot of mobile games more often than I used to, especially with the aforementioned Fire Emblem Heroes, and as such I remember thinking back to myself, well, I should go back and visit the old games that I really used to play a lot of back in the day, and so today I want to go back to the Advance Wars series, and I want to talk about the second game in the series, Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. And if you remember last year, I did talk about the original, but there are a lot of changes in the second game which I think deserve their own video, so enjoy. Advance Wars 2 made a lot of significant changes from the original. Now, due to the fact that I mentioned a lot about the mechanics of the series in the last video I made, I'm not going to go into too much detail as to how battles are fought, won, or facilitated. So if you need a refresher, feel free to check that video out first. In particular, this game's story is a big departure from the original. In Advance Wars 1, the game focused you solely in the shoes of the Orange Star Army with Andy, Max and Sammy, as they fought every nation on the globe due to being embroiled by a grand scheme concocted by an unknown force. However, in this game it takes a much better approach of allowing the player to take the helm of every nation. To start off though, we begin in Orange Star territory, but in a different area than the last game. If you remember, the original was set in Cosmoland, and this game takes place in Macroland. Fortunately, each nation owns more or less identically geographically similar areas, each defended by the same COs, so cool I guess. As per usual, we get to start things off slowly with the campaign bringing us up to speed with the game's mechanics, but this game doesn't feature field training such as seen in the last game. Overall, I think this was a good decision so that it didn't alienate a lot of the players who would come back to the series by letting them drudge through a lot of tedious tutorials, but it also doesn't abandon new players to sort of figuring everything out on their own. Especially if you go straight into the hard campaign, there are no tutorials whatsoever, so it helps with the pacing. The really cool thing about this shift in gameplay is the method to which you choose missions. That's because now we get to move a cursor over the map and pick which missions to do first. Plus, each continent is being assaulted by a whole bunch of new enemy black hole COs. The enemies not here in Cosmoland? Huh? Well, where are they? In our world, in War's world, there are several continents, right? Really? Continents? Who let this 10-year-old become a commander in the army again? This method of picking our fights with new COs works really well as they're paced brilliantly. To start with, Orange Star is being invaded by Flak, a brute force type of guy whose units tend to occasionally have random firepower bonuses and reductions. He's not a very good CO for the most part as he's very vanilla in terms of his risky combat style, but we also do tangle with another CO called Lash whom specialises in terrain defense. Therefore, in the first section of the game we start with familiar COs that returning players will be very familiar with, against new enemy threats and even special terrain units. For example, this game heavily features black hole terrain units such as black cannons, pipelines and lasers, and even the allied nations get things like missile silos. Do you see that giant cannon? Yeah, I do, pal, kinda hard to miss. These extra units significantly tip the scales of battle against you in a way which requires a methodical approach to dealing with new threats, as well as the usual mechanics from the previous game. There is even a secret mission on every continent which, if completed, awards the player with the new most powerful land unit in the game, the Neo Tank, which in turn can be used in certain tricky maps to help you turn the tide of battle. Plus, when you complete the Orange Star Continent's missions, you unlock a final push to kick out the Black Hole Army at their staging facility. Essentially, the factory there spews out 3 powerful units for Flak and can only be stopped by destroying a seam in the factory's pipeline, which of course is usually pretty well guarded. Oh, and do remember, this is only the first continent. Now, after the completion of the Orange Star Army's campaign, we unlock the ability to play as Blue Moon and Yellow Comet. Not only is it really good fun to try out COs in the campaign which were previously limited to the war room in the original game, but we also get a better insight into their personalities as the campaign progresses. Plus, each army gets a new CO.
Blue Moon gets Colin, a pretty green graduate of military school who can create units at a cheaper cost, but as such has weaker firepower than any other CO. Yellow Comet also gets Sensei, a grizzled old veteran who specialises in helicopters and infantry units. So not only do we get a load of new COs to try out and experiment with, but on occasion we also get to team up with the other allied nations. My favourite types of battles are usually when you team up polar opposite units such as Max and Grit, who together can be used to compensate for each other's weaknesses. Plus, when you eventually get to Green Earth's territory, we also meet Jess, who specialises solely on ground units, making the entire Green Earth army a trifecta of extremely focused COs specialising in land, sea and air. However, the great fact of the matter is that Black Hole COs are a lot more strategic in how they oppose you. We've already mentioned Lash and Flak, but we also have Adder, whose ability relies on his speed to manoeuvre across the battlefield, and Hawk, who has slightly superior units in both defense and firepower, but also wields probably the most annoying ability in the game.
Oh, and did I mention that this game's CO powers get better too? Oh boy.
Okay, so in the original game, COs like Andy could heal his units for 2 HP. Yeah? Well, now every CO also has a superpower which takes longer to charge, but in cases like Andy's, his ability is overhauled to allow him to heal his units for 5 HP. Grit gets much better range and firepower, Sammy can capture buildings with infantry at any HP, Sonya allows her units to see into woods during fog of war, and because Eagle's original power was so overpowered, they had to bump it up to the superpower just to make it fair on the others. And although this may sound like it makes the game much easier, the opposite is the reality. This game is a lot harder than the original due to the increased number of COs, with the inclusion of superpowers, new units, new terrain, and black hole controlled fortifications. I mean, for the majority of this gameplay you're seeing, I was playing on the hard campaign mode, because as you know,
I'm a big boy. I can handle myself.
But honestly, some missions like this one where you have to capture an enemy base within a time limit with massively unfair odds against you, an enemy team starting with a sizable army before yours is even built, not for the faint of heart. Plus the overall art style is a lot cleaner, we can design the CO's colour schemes, have more variety in design maps, Hashi has a bunch more stuff to buy with our war funds, and even Sturm returns for the final levels, and to be fair, he looks a lot more evil this time around. Of course, he also has the most ball-crushingly difficult levels, with one even including a giant frickin' laser. Yet with the ability to pick between 12 COs to tackle his stronghold, it's still a massive amount of fun to conquer. Then with Black Hole defeated again, Hawk straight up kills Sturm. Huh? Yeah, apparently he can use his annoying CO powers on people somehow. Plus he tells the allies that Black Hole will leave them alone and that they will start rebuilding their home under new leadership. Okay, I'm sure that will be okay. It's not like they've attacked us twice before and almost annihilated all the allied nations through the cost of numerous lives and innocent people.
So there we have Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising, a game which I think is better than the original, but not quite as good as its successor, Advance Wars Dual Strike. What I love about this game is that it's a complete overhaul of the original. They don't just cut out the original game mechanics and art style, add a little bit of extra tint and put it into a new game. They actually rethought how the terrain works, they rethought how the mechanics work, added in new COs, added in new ways of approaching scenarios, new battle techniques, and also adding some more interesting, intricate details which make this game a lot more strategic but also a lot more fun to play. And you know what? The more I play this series in particular, I keep finding myself thinking, why isn't this a mobile game franchise? There is so much application to how people would enjoy this franchise today, which has seemed to be relegated to the past. And I know that Intelligent Systems has recently said the only reason they haven't revisited the Advance Wars series is because there isn't the possibility of romance in it. But when you look at the art style in particular, it means due to its aesthetic, it doesn't really age much. And you can pick this game up on both the original Game Boy Advance, but you can also get it on things like the Wii U. So there's definitely a lot of potential for people to play this game. It's very cheap, it's very reasonable, and you can get hundreds of hours out of these series games. And this one in particular, I think I spent over 200 hours on in this game, but I've also played it about another 200 hours in the Wii U version. So there we have Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see the next video of Dual Strike, it might be coming out next year or the year after, we'll see how it goes. And if you enjoyed the previous video and you have anything to comment on the difference between the two, please let me know. But other than that, I hope to see you guys on the battlefield, and I will see you guys later.